In your story, adversity is your ally. Stories need conflict. Do you know what the difference between a hero and a villain is? So they all have adversity and trauma. How they process that, the hero draws from that, defines their purpose from it, gains strength from the trauma. They're transformed by it to do better. They take responsibility and they grow from it. The villain in the story is victimized by it and blames others for it, never takes responsibility. There's a small sliver of a difference in terms of what they do with it, but a world of outcomes difference. Why we should embrace tragedy, trauma, trials, and tribulations, because all stories need conflict. No conflict, no story, boring, no one cares. So I was thinking about this recently, and I was like looking at all these characters. Black Panther's father was blown up in a bomb, terrorist attack. Superman's home world was exploded. And what's more tragic about that, his parents tried to warn the entire civilization. So he is, for a period of time, the last of his kind, an alien thrown into a foreign planet, living and hiding amongst the people. Iron Man's parents were killed. He's an alcoholic. They don't talk about this in the movies, but in the comic, the source material, he's an alcoholic. The costume becomes his addiction. It's horrible. He goes through a horrible bout. Daredevil, Matt Murdock's origin, I don't know if you know this. He's an orphan. He grew up amongst nuns. His mom is a nun, having him out of wedlock. Yeah, it's dark stuff. Vision's father was a homicidal maniac robot. The Hulk, father was abusive. Black Bolt killed both of his parents when he spoke a word. Just obliterated them. He lives with that. And Bruce Wayne's parents were murdered outside the theater by a common criminal. Stories need the conflict. And then I started to think about this. Do you know what the difference between a hero and a villain is? So they all have adversity and trauma. How they process that, the hero draws from that, defines their purpose from it, gains strength from the trauma. They're transformed by it to do better. Look at Peter Parker, look at Bruce Wayne. They take responsibility and they grow from it. The villain in the story is victimized by it and blames others for it, never takes responsibility. There's a small sliver of a difference in terms of what they do with it, but a world of outcomes difference. So in your story, adversity is your ally, and you want to use this in all forms of your storytelling. I'm going to show you one example here. I mentioned to you, I'm a loud introvert. So it's awesome to share your accolades, your wins, your success, but that's really boring to most people because they think, as the kids say, you're flexing on them. You're flexing, Dad. That's what my kids always say. So I have to find the way to bring in the struggle part. So many years ago, I won an Emmy, and I was super scared to win it because they told me I had to give, no, they don't say you have to, you get to give a 30-second speech. And most people want to talk forever. I didn't want to talk at all. So I wrote a whole story about that, and the results were night and day different between me posting like, hey guys, I'm a 2-time Emmy Award-winning designer, as opposed to telling the story about how my knees were shaking, waiting to be called up on stage. It's a dark story. It has a happy ending though, right? And someone who's done this better than most people is comedian Joe Coy. He has milked his entire life, the trauma with his mom and growing up Filipino, and Vicks vapor rub solving all problems. And he's told this story over and over again to become phenomenally successful. Hassan Minhaj has done the same to talk about his Indian past, growing up in Sacramento and getting super nerdy, and also sharing the story about how he didn't identify as Indian and hated on his younger sister. Adversity is your ally. Your vulnerabilities are your strength. So let me put this in a different way. When you're looking for a way to write a story, think about it like this. Here's another prompt for you. My friends think I'm great at something. This is what your friends know you for. But what they really don't know is that I struggle with this thing. Most people, when I'm introduced on stage, are like, he's great at marketing and branding, and he's great at building an audience and public speaking. That's what they think. But what they don't understand is all the work that has to happen behind the scenes. And I try to tell that story as much as possible. And every time I do that, every time I share that on LinkedIn, on social media, the view counts, engagement goes through the roof.
This video was pulled from a longer talk on personal branding. If you want to learn more, consider joining me in person at one of my upcoming speaking events. check out the upcoming events page on our website. There's a link in the description below. Hope to see you in the future.